Hi everyone, my name is Aisha Sheikh, and this is my presentation for HAP 823 at George Mason University. I am doing my presentation on logistic regression. So, I am going to discuss question 3 for the logistic regression assignment. The question that is asked is listed here on the slide. The first step is always going to be to download the data. The data is attached to the question. Once you download it, please open up the file and observe the data you are working with. I have a screenshot here for what the data looks like. As you can see, everything except for the length of stay has either a 0 or a 1. This did download as an Excel file for me. I usually like to use a CSV file, and I converted the downloaded file to have a file extension of .csv. I used Jupyter Notebook to implement the code. The first line of codes are seen here in the screen, where I am pulling in the CSV data file and showing the first few rows of the dataset. This should match up with what we were looking at earlier. I then wanted to pull out all the columns to get a visual of all my columns in the dataset. Here I am implementing a code to create a bar chart where we can see the mean of various diagnoses for Dr. Smith compared to the other clinicians. Here we can see that there is not a large difference in the means, although the other clinicians have a slightly higher mean compared to Dr. Smith. Now let's look at probability. Here we can see the bar chart that was implemented from the probability that was calculated from the code. As we can see, the probability of Dr. Smith seeing a patient was higher than the other clinicians. Now we are going to do the regression of the 9 diagnoses provided in the dataset. We are going to exclude the columns cared for by Dr. Smith. We then use logistic regression to find the intercept and coefficients, which we will then utilize to create a visual in the next slide to see what predictors have a larger impact. Here are the coefficients visualized in a bar chart. We can see that the diagnoses heart failure and metastatic cancer have a higher negative coefficient, indicating that they are seen by Dr. Smith less. Now, let's answer the question together. Does Dr. Smith see a different set of patients than his peer group? The answer to that is yes. As we saw earlier, Dr. Smith does see a different set of patients compared to the other clinicians. The next part, in particular, what is the probability of patients being seen by Dr. Smith? Based off the probability graph we created earlier, the probability of patients seen by Dr. Smith is 60%, and the other clinicians, it's 40%. And the last part, regress the choice of provider on the 9 diagnoses provided. The bar chart we created in the last slide demonstrates that the choice of providers between all except for heart failure and metastatic cancer is equal between Smith and his peers. For heart failure and metastatic cancer, the patient preferred the other clinicians over Dr. Smith. And that wraps up my Teach 1 for HAP 823. Thank you so much for watching.